This is not CGI, a stunt double actually did this stunt, just like this stunt. While Marvel tends to use CGI a lot, they have plenty of examples where stunts are done in camera, even this moment from Thunderbolt's Asterix. So here are some of the coolest Marvel stunts put to screen.
What can I say? I'm nothing without my stunt team.
The degree of safety for this stunt is quite low, but the degree of difficulty may be the highest on the list. I'm of course talking about Tobey Maguire catching a tray of falling food in the first Spider-Man movie. Ultimately, it took Tobey 156 takes and a 16-hour day to pull it off. Apparently, the studio wanted to cut the shot, but director Sam Raimi explained how long it took and allowed the moment to remain in. To make the catch slightly easier, his hand was stuck to the tray to avoid dropping that, and the food was stuck to the plates. On top of that though, both Maguire and Kirsten Dunst still had lines to deliver in that same shot. So can you imagine if he caught that tray of food and one of them messed up that line?
Wow, great reflexes. Thanks.
No problem.
Not all stunts are strapping yourself to the side of a plane or climbing the tallest building in the world. Sometimes, simple moments like hanging upside down to have a kissy kiss with MJ can provide one of the most iconic moments in movie history. Despite it looking like a simple stunt, Tobey revealed that it was a challenge to complete. It was not only freezing, but the rain was causing water to fill his nose, making it difficult to breathe. Then when he started kissing, he had no oxygen coming in. Plus, he was hanging upside down, so all the blood was rushing to his head, a position that he would have to remain in for extended periods of time. Luckily, it was all worth it in the end.
You have a knack for getting in trouble.
The 2003 Daredevil movie may have used a lot of CGI for the title character's movements, but I can't make a video talking about Marvel stunts without mentioning the playing around scene in that film. I mean, look at the balance required from both Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner. If you think they just switched the camera on, press record, and got the first take, then you would be as foolish as the very Marvel named Matt Murdock squeezing half a bottle of mustard into his coffee cup thinking it was honey. I mean, even if he did think that was honey, how sweet do you want it? Anyway, the playground scene took 4 days to film.
You're holding back.
Yes.
Stop.
This was obviously a stunt double performing that stunt in Spider-Man 2, but just look at how much force he hits those cars with. Even with padding and protection underneath, there must have been at least a little bit of pain. That's what makes this stunt so great, because as a viewer, I felt the pain of that. This moment is extra interesting because Tobey Maguire had a pre-existing back problem. When he disclosed this information to the studio just before starting to film this movie, he worked with the stunt team for a couple of days to make sure his back would be okay to work on the movie, which it was. There were rumours that Jake Gyllenhaal was on standby to replace him, but apparently that wasn't as close as people made it out to be. He was just one of several actors in consideration.
You don't want any part of this.
The 2005 Fantastic Four movie had a couple of practical X-Game type stunts, those being the snowboarding and motocross scenes. Obviously both have an added level of CGI for certain elements, but for the most part, they were done in camera, including some of the falls. US Olympic snowboarding gold medalist Red Jared broke down the snowboarding scene for GQ Sports and said those stunt performers would lose about 60% of their concentration with a helicopter filming around them. So what may seem simple for accomplished skiers and snowboarders now has an added layer of difficulty. Moving out of the cold, real-life motocross riders Cowboy Kenny and the very Marvel named Ronnie Renner were a couple of riders in this scene, with Ronnie being the stunt double for Johnny Storm. They each did multiple takes, but would have to wait about 10 to 15 minutes between each jump before doing it again as the crew reset the shot. For that reason, the writers claimed this made it more challenging, because they're having to refocus back up each time, rather than constantly riding back around doing multiple stunts in a row.
You were on fire!
A lot of Jean Grey's house scenes in X-Men The Last Stand were filmed in camera. Even things like paper flying around and a couch being thrown at the wall was all real. Very little CGI was added. That includes a stunt performer being thrown into the ceiling by Juggernaut and a different stunt performer falling out in another room only to be kicked out the window. The perfect example of a Texas switch. Ghost Rider is a movie about a stunt performer, so stunts were inevitable. While I'm pretty confident no one actually jumped over all these trucks, this controlled fall looked too real to be 2007 CGI. So if we're saying this is real, then even as a controlled fall, landing on your head could have ended very badly, so recognition is warranted for the commitment.
Is the bike okay?
I can't find any behind the scenes footage to confirm if this stunt from Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance is real or not, but it looks very real, and with a person at the front too. I imagine the front angles were done with camera trickery to hide that they were on a trailer or something, but the side view looks legit. Who was the stunt double who volunteered to sit up front? Don't tell me the kid actually did it. I know it was a lower budget movie, but surely they spent some of that money on safety precautions.
You want to have some fun?
Spider-Man 3 actually dumped 3,000 pounds of sand on the armoured truck drivers. But it wasn't actually sand, it was ground up corn. The person to actually be buried in that corn was one of the movie's producers, Grant Curtis. So it wasn't even a stunt performer.
I think I just soiled myself.
Animals are unpredictable, that's why something like The Life of Pi used CGI. When I watched this scene in Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, I thought they would have filmed Michael Chiklis' scene, then brought the bear in to record that separately. However, after watching the behind the scenes, that bear was in the same shot as Chiklis, specifically a 10-foot, 600-pound Kodiak bear. While not inherently aggressive, it's still a wild animal that will attack if it feels threatened. Like, I don't know, if a giant rock monster started yelling at it. I mean, if it did get out of control, at least Mike's got some protection. The rest of the crew would be screwed.
Hi diddly D, an actor's life for me. I can't believe I'm actually doing this.
Yes, a stunt performer really did slam into that wall in Iron Man. Obviously it was padded, but it's a fun gag. Who said stunts have to look cool? Sometimes they can provide great humorous moments. I don't know how high up you would rank this Incredible Hulk stunt, but I found it kind of fascinating. Basically, Emil Blonsky outrunning the other soldiers wasn't done with CGI or filming separate plates. The stunt team actually put Tim Roth on wires and pulled him along. All he had to do was have his feet running along on the floor. However, this is easier said than done, because they got him close to 40 miles an hour, which is around 60 k's. Hence, it took many takes before they got what we eventually see in the movie. This chase between Bucky, T'Challa, and Steve Rogers in Captain America Civil War was largely done practically. For the running, they used what's called a magic carpet that gets pulled along by a car as the stunt performers run on it, making them look like they're actually running at a faster pace than moving cars. They got to the same speeds that Tim Roth was doing with wires. This stunt running of the car was also real, and when Bucky picks up the motorbike, spins it around and gets on it, was also done in camera, just with the help from some wires.
Stand down now.
The mid to late 2000s was the height of parkour. Notable on-screen mentions includes using it in Casino Royale and The Office, but 2008's Punisher Warzone also had a crack at it. Now, while it may not have been as cool as Bond's version, it's got to be up there with the US Office for humour, because not only does it have a punk rock song playing as they trick about, but it cuts out perfectly when Frank Castle just absolutely obliterates one of them with a rocket launcher mid-flip. A lot of swinging in The Amazing Spider-Man was actually done practically. Unless there's a scene on top of a skyscraper, it's highly likely that the swinging was done in camera. So this was practical, that was real, and many more as well. By doing it in camera, I feel like it adds that extra layer of believability. Andrew Garfield also did some of the skateboarding. Maybe not the big jumps, but he's still pretty good at real-life Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
You want to keep that skateboard?
Yeah.
Keep it off the ground. Wheels up.
Like that?
That's it.
Iron Man 3 had a number of big stunt performances, but the most notable is of course the marquee scene of the passengers free falling in the sky. The Red Bull skydiving team filmed the scene over 8 days with 62 airplane loads, 600 parachute jumps, and 480 hidden parachute jumps. How they hid their parachutes was just by building them into their costumes. The sequence then ends with a 15 zipline rig dropping all the performers, minus Iron Man, into the lake. Initially the scene was intended to be done on a green screen, but when they realised this could be logistically done practically, they went with that option. And I'm sure Marvel was happy with the end result.
Nice work, guys. Excellent. Good team effort all around.
If you thought this scene from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was CGI, then you would be as wrong as someone who's wrong. Inspired by Buster Keaton, this stunt was done in camera. Stunt coordinator Andy Armstrong, who has a very Marvel name, worked out that Keaton was able to pull off the stunt by jumping just before he grabbed onto the vehicle. So for this movie, they used that same technique without any wires or safety measures. If you thought this scene was done with wires or CGI, you would be incorrect. Andrew Garfield was actually being rotated around in a room, rolling on the walls, getting changed. They also used a similar rig to rotate the private plane around during the scene at the beginning of the movie. If you thought this scene was done without mannequins, you would be mistaken. They got 40 people to practice holding a pose, then when it came to filming the scene, they had to maintain stillness for around 5 to 6 minutes as the camera moved around them. Now, while this isn't necessarily a dangerous stunt, and some may even say it's not a stunt at all, but if you think that way, then you try and stay still for 5 minutes, particularly if you're in a precarious position like some of them were. Go ahead, watch the rest of the video without moving. Whatever position your body is currently in, remain like that until the end. If you thought this scene was done in camera, then you would be the opposite of correct. It's clearly CGI. Electric people don't exist yet. The path that led the very Marvel named Stephen Strange to becoming a sorcerer was injuring his hands in a car crash, and the car which was crashed was the Lamborghini Hurricane, or should I say, 8. Now, I don't know if all 8 were crashed, but at least one was crashed and one was used to cut open to film the interior of water rising around Benedict Cumberbatch. The cars were given to them by Lamborghini. However, if you have $250,000 US lying around, then you too could be a proud owner of a Lamborghini Hurricane, just like Steven. But make sure you keep to the speed limit and look at the road.
Got it.
What I love about this moment from Spider-Man Homecoming is that it's all one shot. There's a lot of moving parts going on. Not only does Tom Holland have to close the window with his foot, crawl across the ceiling, shut the door, and drop down, but neither he nor Jacob Batalon can laugh when Jacob drops the Lego Death Star, or they'll have to do it all again. I wonder how many takes that took, because either they were hoping to get it on the first try, or they had multiple Lego Death Stars on standby. Also, who built these Death Stars? If you were that person and are currently watching this video, let me know in the comments.
How many pieces?
3,803.
That's insane.
I know.
Deadpool tells us himself that this stunt performer is really on fire in Deadpool 2. Now, there have been many examples of characters on fire in movies before, but this one is notable because of how long the shot goes on for. My understanding from having seen the behind the scenes for fire stunts before is that performers are supposed to hold their breath. So holding your breath for 30 seconds while running around is challenging. Or maybe it's not, because the flamed on person does leave the frame twice, so I might have just brought the coolness level down from supernova to warm, seeing as though they may have done the old Texas switch with 3 stunt performers acting in this scene.
That's not CGI, folks. He's actually on fire.
The winged suit chase at the beginning of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier uses a combination of CG and practical, but a lot of the elements were inspired by real-life wingsuit skydivers, so even things like entering a helicopter mid-air is something that's been done in real life before. While most of this scene ended up being done on a computer or in front of a green screen, a team of wingsuit professionals went out to film reference footage for the filmmakers to be inspired by, and some of that footage even made it into the show.
If we get to the border, he's not gonna follow.
What's up?
I will never get bored of seeing people slide down the middle of escalators in action movies, or any movie genre for that matter. It's cool, and they always jump down into the slide, just like in the Black Widow movie. If that was me, I would sit down first, shuffle myself along a little bit before the momentum slides me down. That would be the safest way for me to carry out that stunt.
Crash landing!
Tom Holland actually jumped onto a moving vehicle, backflipped off, and landed in a Spidey pose in Spider-Man No Way Home. Unfortunately, I don't think the final shot does it justice. It looks CG. I don't know if it's because CGI has become so good, or because they painted over his performance with the computer-generated version, or maybe Tom Holland just looks like CGI. Either way, there's proof he actually did it, so that's good enough for me. Practically filmed underwater scenes in movies always impresses me. Not just the skill of holding their breath for long periods of time, but just the duration it takes to film scenes like that. Everyone's got to get in position, the bubbles have got to clear away, then they've got to act out the scene. So even if it's only a 10-second shot, the actors are really having to hold their breath for 3 to 4 times as long as the scene is set up. Black Panther Wakanda Forever was a film that used this underwater technique. Neither Shuri actor Letitia Wright nor Namor actor Tenoch Huerta knew how to swim before this movie, but after training, Tenoch got so comfortable underwater that he was able to hold his breath for up to 5 minutes. Though most of the underwater stuff was filmed in camera, there were some elements done on a blue screen before the visual effects company Weta made them look wetter.
Bravo!
Venom: The Last Dance was another movie that practically did their water scene. I don't really have anything extra to add from what I said about Wakanda Forever, but even things like the special agents were literally dropped into the river. That's not CGI.
Hell yeah!
I'm assuming wires and camera trickery was done to film this scene in Agatha all along, but there's not a lot of behind the scenes video of that being filmed. It's such a great moment and so well filmed. I wish I could give more detail on the scene, but I couldn't find much other than what's explained in Marvel Studios Assembled The Making of Agatha All Along. They did talk about the falling ceiling, which actually had practical swords dropping. I think that's also a testament to CGI, as we're at a point where you might assume something is practical but was actually done on a computer, or vice versa. It's now often difficult to distinguish between the two. In Kraven the Hunter, when you see the title character on the outside of the car in the chase, that's all practical. A stunt performer was really holding on. It is however made easier with handles around the vehicle, so that loses cool points. I could have done that, with my eyes closed as well, no hands either. I do it with my eyes closed, no hands, all core strength. Good thing I know someone who's done Pilates once. At the beginning of the Thunderbolts Asterix movie, Florence Pugh herself actually performed the jump off the Merdeka 118 in Kuala Lumpur, which is the second tallest building in the world. It was also the second last shot in the movie to be filmed. So was that Marvel's way of saying, well, if the wires break, at least we shot the whole movie? It seems like someone else did the parachuting though, because Florence was quoted as saying, we're going to have 3 women break 3 different Guinness World Records. For those wondering what the last shot was filmed, it was this one here, which was also practically done with no CGI. It's a real explosion. I always freak out with stuff like that. Like, what if the actor messed up their line or something?
Oh wait, hang on.
You may have noticed I refrained from talking about fight scenes or car chases because I feel like they're kind of their own thing. So maybe one day I'll make a video talking about the best fight scenes in Marvel movies and the best car chases. But thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what your favourite Marvel stunt is. And don't forget to absolutely obliterate those like, subscribe and share buttons. I'm just kidding. Only do it with enough force that it registers. I don't want any of you breaking whatever device you're watching this on.